All right, we're here at Raceline USA in Temple City for day one dyno day of the Super Street FF Battle 6. That is front-wheel drive, front engine. So we have a grid of Hondas that are gonna come through.
We're doing everything from turbocharged K-Swap Civics to NA, K-Series to full-blown ITRs. We actually have 4 of them here in this competition.
Basically, they get scored on peak power numbers. Each entry is gonna get a couple poles. Based on those polls, the number they come out with, that's gonna give them a score. And then tomorrow we go to Streets of Willow for the track portion.
This one has a K24, K24 and K20 head, something we do quite regularly. Has a Garrett GTX 35R, and currently making about 500 horsepower. At the FF Battle, we only went at race gate, so it was only 300 plus. My name is Loy Song. I'm from Sport Car Motion in San Diego. At my shop, we primarily do Honda, 90% on FF, and majority of work lately has been K-Swap. This Civic was actually started off as a toy I bought from a friend of mine from Snell Performance in Arizona. And I bought this car for $500. And when FF Battle came, we got invited to join them, and that's when we decided to bring this one out.
As you can see, the dyno portion of the day had some pretty exciting numbers. First off, we have Louis Lang with a Acura Integra Type R that put down 209 wheel horsepower. Next up, we have Ken Swen with a supercharged Honda Civic Si, putting down 258 horsepower. And finally, we have Jason Lee, who put down 336 horsepower in his turbocharged K20 swap Honda Civic sedan. All right, so today was pretty successful. We didn't have any cars blow up on the dyno, thankfully. We had some guys put up some pretty big numbers. Each car got 2 passes, so they should be all dialed in, and it looks like VTEC just kicked in, so it's time for us to go. See you guys at the track tomorrow.
My name is Ken Swen. This is my daily driver, 2013 Honda Civic Si. I'm here at my 3rd FF Battle event. Car's running good, tires really good. This setup is a stock K24. Just put a CT Engineering supercharge in it. Makes about 260 horsepower, but the car weighs a lot though. The car's weight about 3,000 pounds. Like, not too many people have this kind of setup for road racing or time attack, and I'm just trying to see how it goes.
So the beauty of going to a lot of events like this, say like if you're at the FF Battle, is that it has a lot of grassroots vehicles like you would even be driving normally. One of the main things that any kind of competitor wants to do when they modify their car is to make the chassis what we call more stiff or more rigid, meaning we don't want the body to be flexing like it used to do when it was a factory car, say in a street environment. In this environment, the car's gonna be submitted to a lot of very, very extreme forces. So to do that, we have to do something about keeping the body from twisting and flexing underneath those forces. A common thing to do is to add a roll cage. A roll cage, a safety cage inside the vehicle, not only adds to the stiffness and rigidity of the car, kind of like a skeleton inside the car, but it also makes the car safer, of course. Another common thing that can be done is what's called strut bracing. Well, in a passenger car, they work just fine. But in a racing environment, that metal can flex and bend as it's submitted to the forces at the track. So we can add a crossbar across there called a strut tower brace, which does exactly what it's called, braces the strut towers together.
FF6 was filled with its fair share of mishaps. Jason Lee, in the Sport Car Motion Civic sedan, actually ended up blowing the engine in one of the first 2 sessions of the day. That didn't allow them to truly dial in the car and get the lap times that they wanted.
So Jason, saw your Civic parked on the side of the road there. What happened?
So I was coming out of the bowl section in the back of the course, and then I had it in 3rd gear loading up the car, turbo spooling, and I hear some like knocking sound, like 2 knocks, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's a rock, some rocks coming off because I went off a little earlier, and then next thing you know, oil all over the windshield.
Oh no.
And I'm like, dang, I think the motor blew.
Yes, we blew the motor because the motor has been abused for a long time, and we knew it will go eventually, but we did not expect that soon. But we blew it, I guess, just the first session.
One of the inherent beauties of the turbocharger design is that the exhaust we would have been getting rid of from the engine that would have just gone out underneath the vehicle through the exhaust system, we're using that exhaust energy and that heat and that exhaust volume to spin the turbine side of that turbocharger, which is also going to, of course, make the boost we want. Well, how much exhaust we allow to go through that turbine of that turbocharger is going to dictate how much boost we're going to build and when we're going to build it. We use a device called the wastegate, which is the boss of the boost, really. That wastegate is going to allow either all the exhaust to go through that turbocharger, building a lot of boost, or when the boost gets to a certain range, that wastegate can open up and bypass some of that exhaust energy and that pressure and that volume through the exhaust system and only let some of the exhaust continue to go through the turbocharger. Because quite frankly, as much as we love turbos, they'll blow up our engine if we don't take care of it to make sure that it doesn't overboost.
So yeah, this is my very first time doing FF Battle this year for 2014. It was, a really good experience. Pretty much I have a 2001 Acura Integra Type R I purchased probably 3 years ago. The motor I have in my car right now is a K-swap motor off of the 8th gen Civics. All the mods I have is mainly stock, just basic intake and exhaust and headers. Nothing too fancy built inside the motor, everything is just completely stock. The only thing I really did was put a roll bar in just for my own safety so I could run a 6-point harness, just in case anything happens. So overall track experience that day was pretty good, but during the morning I had some struggles trying to dial down the car because I've never ran it on Continental tires, especially on 17 inches.
Also extremely important to chassis stiffness and rigidity is the suspension that's underneath the car. Suspension parts like anti-sway bars, shocks, those kind of parts are what we call reactive components. So when the car is submitted to a certain type of racing environment under acceleration, deceleration, going through different corners, then those components actually help us to tune the vehicle to the track conditions, depending on the driver's aggressiveness, the power of the vehicle, the weight of the vehicle. There's a lot of different factors that play into it. There's anti-sway bars usually on the front of the vehicle and on the back of the vehicle. When a vehicle goes into a corner, typically it wants to lean or sway. So the anti-sway bar tends to tie the control arms to the chassis. What that does is that can either allow the body to maybe roll a lot or maybe just roll a little, depending on how the tune's going to be. Shock absorbers are the same way. Those can also be tuned. Shocks can be compressed or extended in different rates, oftentimes called jounce and rebound. And we can tune that, in addition to anti-sway bars, to tune the suspension as we're going around the track to make it handle better and keep our contact patches on the road better.
Louis Lang was our overall NA winner of FF6. He put down a very fast lap time and some pretty respectable dyno numbers. Side note here, Christian and Louis both had naturally aspirated cars. At the track, we saw some blisteringly fast times. First off, we have Ken Swen with a 1:28.312. Next up, we have Christian Wong with a 1:28.181. That's only 0.2 of a second difference. Then finally, in the last session of the day, Louis Lang squeaked out a 1:27.963.